course, this is a live look at our XRAD radar system as we continue to track this very powerful system that is now responsible for at least 4 deaths over in Glenallen, Missouri, after an apparent tornado moved through that area. I do want to bring in Chris Franks, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, to talk more about this system here. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on here this morning.
Of course. So first off, kind of walk me through that system that moved through earlier on this morning and produced this apparent tornado.
Yeah, so this whole system got going with multiple rounds of severe weather all the way back to yesterday afternoon. We already had strong to severe storms in Missouri that were tracking into Iowa and Illinois. And this event that unfortunately killed a few people and injured others was sort of a worst case scenario where you have a tornado late at night between 3 and 4 in the morning. So it was really sort of the punctuation on several rounds of severe weather, which moved over the central part of the U.S. over the span of about 18 hours. And it continues on this morning, moving off across portions of Indiana and Michigan. You showed the image there of a very large system that continues producing severe weather today.
Tell me about how crews go out there to survey this damage left behind, because at this point I know it has been called a tornado. Has it been confirmed, and how does that work?
Yeah, it's highly likely this is a tornado. In fact, our offices could see some debris, a debris signature on our radar. So, but what our crews are going to do today, we let the search and rescue folks get out at daybreak, and they were out last night, and then we'll send a team down there. They are already en route today to look at some of the worst damage areas first, and they'll kind of go back and forth along the suspected damage path to kind of give it a start and end time, figure out how strong it was, how wide it was, and they'll be looking really closely at some of the damage to determine that. So they're en route today, and they'll be there probably most of the day viewing the damage.
Any other tornadoes that are known that did touch down? Because this, as we mentioned, a very powerful system there.
Yeah, so we do have other couple locations, sort of southeast of Des Moines. There were some confirmed tornadoes. We saw some video footage of it. So we have crews going out in Iowa today to look at some of the damage. And then a confirmed tornado in northwest Illinois. Again, they had several rounds of severe weather in Illinois yesterday. So there's another team out in Illinois looking at damage today. So by the time it's all said and done, there'll be several tornadoes confirmed today. And then, by the end of today or tomorrow, we should have a better idea on the final count, how strong they are, and where exactly they tracked.
And so my next question is, where does this system go from here? Can you kind of give me a forecast as to what folks should expect as it does continue to travel through the U.S. there?
Yeah, absolutely. And the image there is pretty striking. We have ongoing strong to severe thunderstorms from Arkansas all the way up to Michigan today. We have tornado watches in effect across multiple states. Going through late this afternoon, so about 4 or 5 p.m. For this next round, people need to have their guard up, have ways to get warnings, have ways to move to shelter or a safe location quickly. So we're still not out of the woods today. All the way through the afternoon and early evening, it continues on today. And then fortunately after today, for the rest of the week, it does trend a little bit quieter in terms of severe weather. The system moves off to the east. There is still not a zero chance of severe weather along the East Coast, but it's much less compared to what we've seen yesterday and what continues on to today.
And we talked about other possible tornadoes, that could be confirmed here as a result of this system moving through. Do we know of any other extensive damage, anything of that nature, any other areas that were hit pretty hard? Because at this point, Glenallen, Missouri is what you're hearing a lot about.
Yeah, and rightfully so, just given the fact that there were injuries and unfortunately people died. So that is sort of the top news story weather-wise. But I tell you what, our offices are going to be looking really all the way from the Quad Cities, Iowa, down to Peoria, Illinois. There's probably several areas where there's some pretty decent damage, and these are people's lives we're dealing with here. So any damage to your property, uninhabitable, is significant, right? So there are several areas in Illinois and that we're going to look closely that could again be considered strong tornadoes.
All right, Chris Franks there, meteorologist with the National Weather Service. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and talk a little bit more about this system here. Is there anything else that you want to add before I let you go?
Just that we've already seen a very busy severe weather season, and we're just getting into April. So obviously we have a long way to go to get through the season, just to make sure folks have ways to get warnings, especially at night or when you're out of your home and you're kind of running errands or maybe at somebody else's house. Have a way to get alerts, and then know where to go, no matter where you are, to seek the safest shelter. We still have a long way to go in severe weather season, so have folks just to keep their guard up and pay attention.
And real quick, because I just thought of this as you said that, is it normal for us to see this much severe weather activity in such a short period of time? Is that normal for this time of year?
It is. Unfortunately, we can get going in March and April, and in some of our busy severe weather years, we hit the ground running right away with a lot of tornado reports. So although we're trending a little bit above the long-term average, this is really not uncommon. April is when we start to see more and more of these events, and a lot of times they are kind of stacked back to back like this. It may be one large system that produces tornadoes or severe weather a couple days in a row. And this will continue all the way through May to kind of keep our eye out for tornadoes and severe weather, right? We're just getting into the season.
All right. Thank you again for taking the time to join us and help break that down for us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.